Hello and welcome to another episode of Tour Talk. I'm Dario Nikzad, and as always, I am joined by Nate Bergman, who looks a little sleepy this morning.
This is early for me. This is an hour after I've woken up. It's not anyone's fault but my own. But I have not set an alarm clock for the entirety of quarantine. For 8 months, I have not set an alarm. I wake up at about between 8:30 and 9:30.
Because you find it offensive being woken up by an alarm. You don't want to exist in a world where...
I don't understand. So I used to have a workaround to that. I had this CD player, and I think you can still do it with your phone, and it plays a song.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but then, like, if you forget to set the song, then the song becomes not...
Yep.
You associate that song with waking up. It used to be good, and then it turns bad. The sound of the alarm on an Apple iPhone is like, you might as well take trash cans and just bang it right next to my ear. I mean, it's horrific. And that sound I associate with being on tour. And, like, this is the time you have to be up. Or work, or, you know...
You're trying to convince people that you're up on time on tour and you set alarms.
I'm pretty good. I'm not bad.
You're not bad.
I do not show up to lobby call late. I'm generally pretty respectful of people's time.
Yeah, let's leave it at generally pretty respectful. You have your moments. I think we all do, though, so it's fine. It's fine.
Right now is one of them. I am dragging ass, as they say.
I can actually see it in your eyes. But there you go. Now you're with it. That coffee's just kicked in, yeah?
It will, probably halfway through this conversation.
So what I wanted to hit today was that on this podcast in general, we will be interviewing touring artists and musicians and everything else, but the industry is so much bigger than that. And I would love to get booking agents, promoters, managers, all the people who are not in the line of sight of what people know to do with the industry, but have a massive role in it. And I would love to get them on and talk about their roles and how they find the whole thing. So I just wanted to use today to, like, kind of set it up for listeners about who these people are, what they do, how their roles actually work. Because I think a lot of them get a bad rap from fans without fans really understanding how their job works or why they're involved. Because I think fans just see these as people who are taking money away from the artist without actually having a real role. Whereas, as we know, a lot of these artists wouldn't get to anywhere near the level they're at without investment from booking agents, promoters, management, all the rest of it. So I don't know what your take is on people like this in general, and if you want to start with a specific role and work through that way.
It's just it's so complicated. It's so complicated because there's generally not a lot of in between. Like, these people are really great at their jobs or they're terrible. And at the beginning of my career, so for the record, I've worked with hundreds of promoters all across the world. I've personally worked with probably 10 managers, probably worked with 15 agents. And I'm talking about, like, in 2002, 2001, just starting out, regional promoters or local promoters that just do one small room or like a bar.
Yeah.
So I think one of the craziest jobs out of everyone is promoter. What a promoter does.
So should we explain what a promoter does?
Okay, so from my perspective, and I've told you this story before, but there's a guy in Corpus Christi, Texas. His name's Casey Jenkins, and he's one of the greatest human beings on the face of the earth. He owns a couple venues. One of them is a 500-600 cap room. He books the big amphitheater in town. I think it's called Concrete Street Amphitheater in Corpus Christi, and he also does big shows at the baseball stadium. So he does everything in between.
Yeah.
And he said there's 2 rules. This is what he tells me. Maybe this is like 2008. He tells me there's 2 rules to being a promoter. First rule, if you want to do this job, you have to love music. You have to really believe in people loving music. You have to love the bands. You know, you don't love all the bands you book, but you have to have a passion for live music. And the second thing you have to do is go to your bank account and take all the money out and just burn it. Just set it on fire. And actually, I remember now talking about him, he said another thing that I'll never forget. He said, you can never measure your books in terms of finances. Never count your books by the day. Okay. He said, always by the quarter or by the or 2 quarters or the year. Never, ever, ever look at your books, especially in a live music setting. Never look at the finance day to day. He said, if you do, you will wash. This is what he said to me. He said, you will wash your mouth out with a gun.
Wow.
Yeah. But he's totally right,
wow.
right? So on a tour, too, it's the same thing. On a tour or even just a regular month of being at home, you got to look at what it looks like. Project ahead a couple months and look back a couple months. But if you're just looking at the day on a tour, it could be a day where you've needed 2 extra hotel rooms and fuel was expensive, and the night before you didn't sell a lot of merch, so that the net comes down. And he's totally right. I mean, it's measuring it at a length. So for you, what is a promoter?
Well, so I just kind of want to explain what he's getting at. Essentially, the promoters are the guys who take the risk. They're the gamblers. I mean, everybody's gambling in this industry for sure, but out of everybody, they're the one who are really like putting money on the line for each individual show. Because what people don't really understand is that the promoter is the one who essentially pays for the room and the production and guarantees the band their fee. We've discussed they may not always get that fee depending on what that promoter's actually like, but they're the ones who will put up the money to make the show happen, and they only make money if the show sells enough tickets to cover costs, and then they make a percentage of the profit of that show.
Right.
So I mean, like, they have a massive role within the industry, and I think what a lot of people don't understand is that a promoter will see a band that he thinks is going to do well, so he'll book them for 5 shows over the space of a year and a half or 2 years or something.
Right.
Knowing that the first 2 or 3 or 4 shows he's probably going to lose on.
Yes.
Because he's trying, but he sees the bigger picture that this band will go from 20 tickets to 50 tickets to 150 tickets. At which point, eventually, he will make some money by working with this band and having a relationship with them or their booking agent.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, it's such a it's a fine line, right? Because a good promoter and a bad promoter can look a lot alike.
Yeah.
But great promoters, I've been in situations where great promoters have said, "Listen, we lost a lot of money on the show tonight. Can you take a little bit less off the back end, or can you take a discount?" And if it's a promoter that I know is in it for the long haul, I don't want to rip anyone off. But there's also promoters who ask the same thing when you know the show made money.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. A great promoter thinks 5 to 10 years ahead, right, for bands. Like, if you're a great promoter, you're thinking, all right, this band did 20 people on a Wednesday night in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and it was snowing. I bet you if the cards line up, the next show we could probably do 50 or 60 people at $10 a ticket, and so on and so forth. And I think that a bad promoter also thinks of it in that term, but they're not thinking about how they're going to grow the band. They're just thinking this is a place the band has to play.
Sure.
A great promoter thinks this is a place, I want to make this a place that the band wants to come play. And a shit promoter just says the band's got no other choice, so this is where they're playing. Where else are they going to go? And fuck, you know.
Yeah. What I will say about promoting is that, like, I've had to go at most jobs in this industry. Promoting a tour was by far the most stressful 6 months of my life in this industry. Just looking at a balance sheet that for 90% of the time, 95% of the time the tickets were on sale, this balance sheet was just like showing me a huge loss the whole time. And like all you're doing all the time is checking ticket updates from venues, all the rest of it, to see if you're going to hit the predicted number of tickets you thought you were, which means that all the costs that you've agreed to pay out are going to be covered, and you're not essentially going to be liable for tens of thousands of pounds.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that goes back to, like, you should have an idea of what the show's, how things are going day to day, but you can't get wrapped up in one loss.
It's hard
right?
not to, though.
Of course. But personally, for me, it literally ruins a tour when everyone gets fixated on one specific thing, and it is hard not to. But it's like, all right, so we had a flat tire, and the hotel room was twice as much as we thought it was going to be. That kind of stuff just happens. But it's also good to have someone like you on the tour taking the brunt of that misery and just letting the musicians play.
So this is a nice little segue into what a lot of these other people do, is that they are freeing up time for artists to focus being an artist and delivering the best show or the best record they can by dealing with stuff that you don't really want to spend your time doing. You probably can do it, but is that the best way for you to spend your time? Like a label or a manager or a booking agent?
So that's what that's where a manager and an agent and these other roles, tour managers, that's where it comes into play. I mean, that's why those jobs are, that's why they exist.
So between a manager or an artist and the promoter is a booking agent, I mean, the numbers that you gave off at the beginning about having
12 to 14 agents. I'm not kidding.
Do you think that's par for the course in the industry over the 15, 20 years you've been in?
Yeah, I think if you're really... No, I mean, I think if you... There's two... When I came into doing music, there was no real social media yet, right? So bands would start... I know this sounds so crazy, but like... And this might sound insane to a person who's like 18 or 20 and watching this, but... When I started in about 2000, 2001, you started basically by playing house parties, playing your friends' houses, right? Then if you wanted to keep doing it, the only other option was to play small DIY punk kind of venues or bars. So like you go to a pub, you learn 2 hours worth of music. I mean, our big scam was we learned like 4 or 5 cover songs, and then the rest were songs that we wrote. So we would intersplice the covers to the point where if you were just passively listening, you wouldn't know that we were just playing all of our own music.
So you got booked to play 2 hours worth of covers. We used to do that too.
3 and 4 hours sometimes, and we would just play the same song 4 times. It's a scam. And then basically what happens is from that point, you can then find a booking agent who will book you at those we call them menu venues. Okay?
Right, okay.
Because they're really, the people are just there drinking Bud Light and eating chicken fingers. They don't give a fuck about the music. They don't care. But it's really important to learn how to. We would do some shows where we had 4 and 5 hour sets.
Yep.
In a night, and we would just grind that. We would
Play
grind
to people
that
who
out.
don't care. People
they
who don't really want to listen.
And once in a while, you retain someone who's like, I really like this. They sign up on the mailing list. But for the most part, you're playing to yourself.
Yeah.
So then we found agents that would book those, and then the next step from there, in the state specifically, is playing at colleges, playing at universities. So we would then have a mix of house shows, bar shows, and university shows. And now what happens then is agents come in to the play there, and they're called middle agents, and it's really fucked up. A middle agent is an agent that procures you the gig even if you already have a booking agent. So they're taking a middle fee.
Yeah.
They're taking a 10% or 15 or 25% off of a gig even if you have your own agent that's helping you book shows. So between the span of 2000 and 2007 or 8, we were working with 8 to 10 of those type of middle agents.
But were they like kind of agents to a local area who had like an
regional,
inn at like...
Exactly. Regional, local, they had 10 bars or they had 10 universities, and you kind of just start mixing matching. But, a lot of those shows pay crazy money. They would pay $500 to $1,000 to $1,500 to $2,000 for a gig. So when we were hitting it, we had 2 minivans packed full of gear, and 5-6 guys, and we were doing Wednesday to Sunday sometimes. Boom, 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 tons of shows. And then we realized at a certain point, musicians' careers go like this, right? You have to make the choice between you can make a real living working with those middle agents and playing those bar shows, and if you're a good cover band, you could make $100,000 a year. You can really make money doing it, but you will never ever ever have a real career in music in terms of like your own songs and hard ticket sales. So we call those soft ticket shows.
Because
and then you have
the ticket sales aren't really anything to do with the band. It's just the fact that there's a show that people are coming to.
And sometimes the clubs charge the door, and they might make $10,000 at the door. You're never going to know. You've agreed to play for this set amount of money.
Yep.
And that's it. And you're the entertainment for the night. Like you're the hired help.
Yep.
And then when you're playing a hard ticket show, the only way the club makes money is off of your show. So it's your show. It's your music. So we made the choice in about 2005 that we weren't going to go. I made to myself, too, that I was never going to be a part of that other thing. And it kind of feels cheesy at a certain point. It doesn't feel good.
You have to cut your teeth somewhere and learn the game, but then you decide what kind of musician you want to be. That's fine.
Right. So then you get into the world. So then, like, for instance, we had worked our way up to working with some bigger middle agents in that world. And then all of a sudden we're like, all right, we're going to go completely hard ticket. And then boom, you're back at the ground floor of agents and stuff. Now, 2007 forward, I've only worked with 2 or 3 different agents, really. Okay. Because the quality of a great agent in the real world of hard tickets is just like, that's a person who's investing in your career for a long time.
So the booking agent goes to promoters and sells you as a band for a fee for you to play a show for them to promote and sell tickets, essentially.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
And they take a commission.
And then your manager is coordinating those 2 people.
Correct. So they take a commission off the fee that they get you, and then from there, you guys work together and they book as many shows as you want to do, essentially.
Right, yeah. Like a great agent finds the balance of knowing how hard the band wants to work versus them making money off of it. And sometimes they don't make money for a very long time. I mean, yeah.
No, it's cool. Go on.
For instance, my agent who I'm working with now, I've worked with since about 2007. And
not completely all the way through.
For 8 years straight.
Yep.
3 years off, 4 years off, and then now back on. And I can tell you, he's lost money, mostly, working with me. But now it's finally coming to fruition that, like, it looks as if he will make money again.
So the thing with that is that for an unknown band, basically their fees are so low. So say $500 you would get for a show.
Oh
this
man, that's a great show. A lot of most shows when you're a 4-piece rock band and you're first to 4 on a bill and you are ready to go play shows on a real hard ticket bill, you are getting $150 to $250 a night, $250 on the high end. Direct support slot $500 to $800 is a great paycheck.
So this booking agent is taking 10% of $150 to book you that show.
Straight
so $15. It's not even covering like an hour's worth of his time. But he has probably spent 10 hours working on getting you shows for this tour, maybe.
It eats up so much more time. When his he probably has other bands on his roster, most of these bigger agents do, that command tens of thousands of dollars a show. And he's getting 10% of that. So if they go on tour for 30 days, he's making hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then he's calling a promoter for you being like, please give them an extra $75. They need pizza and they need gas to get to the next show. Please help them. Or a lot of times a great booking agent, if they have other bands that are big on their roster, they'll horse trade and say, hey, listen, my other band's coming through next March. and you know we're gonna come to you, and you know you're gonna make so much money off that show. So lose $500 on these young guys.
Sure.
That happens all the time.
Which is amazing because the booking agent believes in you as a band that you're going to go from doing 20 tickets to 2,000 tickets, so that they're putting all the time in up front to then hopefully make money. And that's a gamble too, just like with the promoter, essentially.
You know what I can tell just happened, by the way? I can tell we're ripping apart like a split atom because my coffee's kicked in. Coffee is kicked in, but your pizza is settling in, and you're like, all right, what's the next thing we're gonna talk about? I'm like, managers, agents, booking agents, shows, rock music, let's go. And you're like,
So this is why, like, on tour, this is why tour managers get paid. Because, Jesus, do you know what it's like dealing with this at, like, 10 o'clock every morning for 30 days straight?
Yeah. We're, like, in the van. I'm like, all right, listen.
Because the amazing thing is most of the time I'm, like, begging people to do stuff. Can you please just be on time? Can you please get up? And then when the coffee kicks in, when you're tired from working all day, like, these people are just like this all the time. It's a literal nightmare.
I know from working together with us, it's also like, I'm sure that coffee was responsible for me destroying the transmission on that van that time. You know, I just had 4 cups of coffee. That's the thing too in the UK that's funny about coffee is like, it's different than the rest of Europe. The coffee has gotten much better as a recent, but there was that time period where it's like, all right, most of the coffee's not strong or not great. I mean Americans drink filtered, uninhibited, just pure. I mean, we basically take an IV of caffeine to our veins. And Brits are a little more subdued. They're like, maybe one coffee, maybe one tea. Let's ease into the day.
I think the real difference is that you guys walk around with buckets of coffee. We'll have a cup of coffee, or like we actually drink espresso and everything. We're trying to catch, We're trying to catch up with Europe.
A British pour of coffee, generally from like a espresso machine, it's 1 espresso and some milk. But like American machines, Italian machines, Greek machines, it's 2 double shots pouring out at the same time. So when you're like, I want a double, it's actually 4. So by the time it's noon and we're rolling on the road, I'm like,
I think this is the perfect time to be shooting these podcasts from now on because this is amazing.
Yeah.
Your transformation is out of this world.
Nightmare for me.
We've done booking agents.
So basically what an agent is trying to do, a great agent is trying to build you up, hard ticket sales, and build you as big as they can, as many tickets as they can help you sell. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to develop you as an artist by pairing you up on tours and on shows with bands that you can start building from their audiences. I mean, when you think about it, it's really interesting in a scientific way that, like, for instance, rock music. There's one genre of rock music, right? And there's thousands of bands that are in that genre. So those bands are really just sharing fans. You know what I mean? Very rarely is there a band that's the only band you listen to. I mean, the closest that might come to is like Clutch fans or like Motorhead fans or Iron Maiden fans. They're like straight up, that's what they listen to mostly. And they're not down to like hear other stuff, but everyone's kind of sharing. So when a band has amassed a certain amount of tickets, they work with their booking agent to kind of bring other bands into the fold. You like these hand movements I'm doing? It's like visual. So that's interesting too, because it's all one. You're just talking about people that love to go see shows, and you're trying to figure out who's going to come see your band.
Sure. So the other thing is that you're trying to get that fan to pick your show over the other rock band that might be playing that week or whatever. You're hoping that if they're going to pick one or the other, you're trying to get them into your show, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's funny because everyone tells you that, and I do think there's enough room for everyone, but people do tell you like music isn't a competition, and it's like clearly on the business end, it's for sure a competition, and you're competing for a limited space for people to spend their money on you.
Mm-hmm. Labels.
Okay, so this is the. Oh, did you just do unlimited minutes?
It just gave Zoom so for anyone. This is the first one of these we're trying out on Zoom because we've been a little dinosaur-y with this and been doing these on Skype so far.
Has been terrible.
And it's been awful. So we knew that there was a 40-minute limit on this. And we were like, we need to kind of make sure we're wrapping this up by this time. And then Zoom has just gifted us unlimited minutes for this call. So you guys might be in trouble here. This might be going on for some time if that coffee
Zoom,
keeps working.
Thank you. Thank you, Zoom. Okay, so a label is an interesting part of the equation because a label can basically either do nothing or can make all the difference in the world for people coming to see you.
Definitely. I think the thing I think labels get the hardest rap out of everybody because all you ever really hear from artists is that, a lot of the time is that, oh, the label didn't do this, or oh, they ripped us off with that, or oh, we signed a contract and it's fucked us, basically. Whereas what a label essentially does is finance the making of a record and then is in control of distributing that record to as many people as possible. That's the label's function, essentially.
Right.
For which they obviously want to make money back on that by having rules in the contract to do with what percentage of the record you end up owning or how many sales you have to have before you're able to start recouping more than your advance, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I've had experiences in my career from being on the smallest artist-run label to being on a pretty big artist-run label to being on a subsidiary of a major. And I can tell you that the experiences in generally speaking, from my perspective, a label that is run by an artist or artist management or people that are on the side of the musician have been very good experiences. And labels that are simply under a corporate umbrella are a fucking nightmare.
So what do you mean by good experience? That your record reached a lot of people, it sold a lot of units, you made money up front and on advance, or
no, that the level of exposure was worth the weight of giving up a certain amount of your product, right?
Okay.
So and I have no problem talking about it. I mean, Lionize was one of the first and only, and might be the only band to ever truly put out a record under Clutch's record label, which is called Weathermaker Music. And we reached the most people we had ever reached in our career from being a part of it, and we learned a lot. And we did a bunch of tours with them, and it was amazing. We put out a record on an old manager's label of ours. And he stole like 30 grand from us at one point. We put out an album with BMG, The End, and it did worse than all of our other stuff that we did independently combined.
What was amazing was, the record you put out after that you did independently reached more people than being on a subsidiary of a major label. Which was incredible.
Okay, so this goes to an interesting topic. This goes to an interesting place. The industry has changed a lot because now the artist has so much responsibility on their own. You have to do the work on your own. You cannot simply rely on everyone. And what I mean by that is when I first started playing music, it was like promoters. That was the voice that people looked to see what was happening show-wise. And now promoters really rely on an artist's internal social media, right? Okay. Heavily. It's like, how many Instagram followers do you have? How many of those people will come to the show? Blah, 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 blah. So that's really where it's changed, where like labels now really just, a lot of labels, corporate labels, gobble up tons of young artists and are just gambling on one of them to take off. And we've been a part of that process, and it's the most disgusting feeling on the face of the earth, where you're like, wait a minute, I poured my heart and soul into this fucking thing, and you're not lifting a finger to help it, but you own it. Or you own a piece of it for this many years. It's like, what the fuck? Like, and those people, it's funny because those people, generally, those people that let that stuff happen are not musicians. Like, for instance, the agent I'm working with now has been in bands, has booked bands. He's done all these different aspects of being at the lowest part. So he would never treat me like he doesn't know what that feels like. And my manager, same thing. Has toured in bands, has been a part of music from the punk level, the bottom level, all the way up. And it's like, he knows what it's like to get into a van and fucking just go grind it out. So those are the people that are never going to treat you like they don't know what that's like.
So what's interesting, or just to kind of figure this out, is that obviously you've signed a contract with that company, with that label, that sets out stipulations. So where does that relationship break down? Why is that not worked out as you thought it would? Because both sides have agreed to a set of terms. They want to try and sell your record to make money, but
right. But their terms aren't at there. You can never hold them accountable because they're the ones writing the contract, right? Like you can negotiate certain things, but in the end, the person that's offering you the contract always has the leverage, always has the upper hand because the contract's in their favor because they want to make money doing it. It just matters how much money they're willing to invest in for each artist. I mean, it's a nightmare, and it's really not a good system. I'm fortunate. The label that I'm working with for my solo stuff, they're amazing. I mean, they've been a part. They're people I work with very closely, and they've been a part of the lowest and toughest part of the industry. So they're not looking to. Their investment is wanting me to come back and make more records with them. That's very rare, very rare. And if that's not the label's main goal, you shouldn't be a part of it. You have just as much of a chance now as a young artist to put your fucking music on YouTube and get discovered as you do, just going with a label to... Okay, I'll say this. Labels are very important. They can be very important. But going with a label just to be on a label is not a good reason to do it anymore. It's got to be the right team. It's got to be the right fit. They have to have the right vision.
So, because I think a lot of people end up doing it because they see it as a selling point when they're reaching out to other people. Oh, we're on this label. You should book us because we're going to get backing from the label or whatever. So you don't think that carries as much weight anymore?
It does. I mean, you got to look at a label that's doing a great job for their bands is like Earache in the UK and worldwide. And it's like, Earache used to be a label where you're like, I love thrash metal and death metal, and whatever they put out is going to be cool. And now they've rebranded into more of a blues rock label. So when you sign to them, there's an audience of people that are looking to that label and saying, what's the next new thing? I mean, they've discovered basically Rival Sons, Blackberry Smoke. What's the other band from the UK that people
Massive
love?
Wagons.
Massive Wagons. Temperance Movement. I mean, on and on. They got 7 of the hottest blues rock bands, or Shaman's Harvest, all this stuff. White Buffalo. So that used to be the case across the board for labels. It used to be like, oh, Nirvana's on Sub Pop. What's Sub Pop putting out this month? I'm gonna buy it because it's gonna be cool, or at the very least, I'm gonna pay attention to it. I don't think that's the case as much anymore.
So just then you releasing stuff independently, because obviously I worked with you quite a lot during the last release that you did with Lion Eyes. I mean, is it more miserable being on a label that doesn't really want to work with you, or is it harder having to sift through all the numbers and care about how many monthly listeners in Spotify you've got in Brazil, or how many people are going to hit this playlist that you're trying to get the song on and all that kind of stuff? Because I know that took a lot out of you.
It's harder. It's harder to do it on your own. But when it works out, you're like, oh, I did that. But when it doesn't work out, I did that, right? Like, it's like, what could you have done better? And I think your resources are limited as an independently. Your resources are limited. But I would say that was putting out Panic Attack was the hardest thing I've ever been a part of, including stuff like we hired some people to help us ship the stuff out, and the mailers went out in shitty packages, and we had 15 refunds, and it's like, we didn't think of that.
Yep.
We didn't. a label thinks of that stuff.
I suppose the good thing now that you've done all of this yourself, now that you're back working with a label again, you know all of these things. You've seen where it can go wrong. You
Right.
kind of understand their side, but you also know what to expect of them. You know where they should be doing better, and you now understand the bits that are hard for them too at the same time.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, and I also know that I have to keep my finger on the pulse. I have to pay attention to what's happening. It can't just be like handing the thing over completely and being like, just do your job. You have to be cognizant, and people are human. You might say, oh, you know, man, like, we really want the stuff mailed out in these heavy cardboard things that are going to cost us 15 to 20 cents more per unit, but we'll cover that cost because I don't want the fans to think that we're just handing them shit that gets damaged in the mail.
Sure.
And the label might say, you know what? We didn't think of that, but great. Let's do that. So it's just being on top of it and paying attention.
I think the other thing from doing it for the ground up from you is that because you're literally with Panic Attack, you're like scratching for an opening somewhere. You're trying to find that area where you might be able to make some sort of breakthrough. And you've learned a lot, and now you can take some of that stuff of where you think it's best to market this record or how to go about doing it. I don't want to go on that too much because I think you've got a lot of good ideas with that, and I don't want to get them out there now. But like, I think if you've had to do it yourself and you've had to really... I mean, I use Scratch because it feels like an honest depiction of how it was.
Yeah.
You find opportunities that bigger companies might not be looking at because they have a set way of working, and that's always worked for them at that level.
100%. You have to find the little holes, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's really actually just like, I think it relates in this weird way to tour managing, where like you have to find the way to get it done. Yeah. It doesn't matter, right? Like, you can wake up and be like, oh, this sucks, but like at the end of the day, your job is to figure out how to make it work. So I learned a lot about what not to do. I think what's really important in business and in art, you have to fail. You have to fail to learn how to succeed.
Yeah, 100%.
You don't learn just by winning all the time. Like, it's just you don't. You have to fail.
And I think it means so much more when you finally win, that if you have failed, I don't think anybody could appreciate it as much as you might, having worked so hard for so long to then finally have something go in your favor and actually...
Yeah. I mean, I've been failing for 18 years.
I mean, I didn't want to say it.
And it's just in the last year that I have finally figured out my direction, right? Like, everyone's looking for their direction.
Sure.
Some people find it early on, and you're still going to have failures. I have found my path, and I think most of it's been failure. I don't mean failure in the sense of not being good at it or not enjoying it or not having some victories, because to do it for that long, you have to win a little bit. But for the most part, it's been failing brutally and then learning from that failure and pushing forward to the next thing. It's all a microcosm of itself, right? That's what it's like being on tour. That's what it's like putting out a record. That's what it's like playing a live show, and so on and so forth. It's just a microcosm of itself. Yeah.
So when it comes to putting out a record, because you've released how many now before your solo stuff?
I don't know, dude. 10? 8?
10. But the most recent thing that you've done, you think is by far the best thing you've ever done?
Light years.
But you never would have got there without those 10 preceding records.
Right. Exactly. Like, I learned everything I've learned about how to make a record, and it took 10 years to do it. 10 records to do it. And then going into this one where I'm basically in complete control of every aspect of it, I finally knew what to do. You know? It just takes time, man, and I applaud don't take anything away from bands or musicians that blow up very quickly and it comes to them very easily and it you know, they have an audience and it happens. But I think most, I'll say real with quotes, but like most real artists can see those people. There's a stink on them, right? There's like a brand new car smell that people just know. People know. Real artists know when someone else is faking it, and you can't fake it after doing it for 20 years, you know?
But I think it goes back to what you said about like the label and some of the people that you're working with now, that they've been there, so they know how to treat people and look after people because they've been there.
Right.
So they know how to interact with humans on that level, whereas I think that some people who either don't come from that background or have, like you said, kind of got ahead early doors, they don't have that same grounding and way of being around other people within the industry, for sure.
Right. Think about your first tour that you did as on either side of it. Think about the first shows that you did, or from tour managing. Think about the first tour you went out and really did it as a tour manager. I mean, you just have no fucking like, you don't know. You learn as you go. And then think about the last tour you tour managed, where there's multiple buses, multiple crew. Mm-hmm. You're doing arenas where the load in, I'm just saying, or you're doing amphitheaters, right? And the load in is like 300 yards from, it's bananas. And you couldn't know how to do those if you didn't hang out with me in some small town in the Midlands and burn up a transmission and have to get that right. Like, you can't do one without the other. You have 100%. To do the other. You have to go through the shit.
That's it. I think that's just a nice way to sum up everything about working in this industry and life in general.
You gotta go through the shit.
You gotta go through the shit.
Yeah, this has been fun. This is a fun one.
This is. Are there any other Oh, now that coffee's wearing off.
I think I've expended most of my energy.
You were pretty exuberant for a big chunk of that, I've got to say.
Yeah, now
you came round.
Now I'm back at zero.
So this is like these proper like caffeine highs and crashes that you guys have, because you're literally just charging your way through the day with coffee.
I'm going to turn into such a prick in like 15 minutes.
Which is why we're going to wrap up this wonderful edition of the Tour Talk podcast right now.
This has been a fun one, though. I mean,
it's been good. It's been great. Yeah. I really wanted to kind of at least give people who are going to be listening to this an idea, I think a fair idea on both sides, of what all these other facets of the industry entail. Just so that when we get some of these people on, listeners have got like a clean slate with them. They don't have any real preconceptions apart from they now know what their roles actually are.
I think I fucked up though, and let me put this in there. There are many artists, bands that are a nightmare. Okay, so I don't want this to be like
100%.
I don't want this to come across as like all the artists are so righteous and treat everyone. No, the artists are fucking criminals and crooks and grifters and pieces of shit as well, and they make the promoter's job harder. They make the tour manager's job harder. They make the label's job harder. I mean, I have talked to press people who are talking about one of their bigger artists, and when I say bigger, I mean selling out 2,000 tickets a night. They have the world at their fingertips. They're really doing it. They're catching a buzz. And they'll be like, I need a photo from this artist, and I hit them up 2 weeks ago, and I can't get a picture back. It's a nightmare to have that happen, right?
There are some artists that are difficult. There are some crew that are difficult. I think that's just human nature. So it is not just those other job roles within the industry. Everybody is capable of being a piece of shit around here.
Correct.
But we try our best to be lovely and make it a good day for everybody. I think that's how we set out to do it anyway.
We do.
We do okay.
We do okay. We're doing this. This is fucking unbelievable.
What, that it's actually worked the whole fucking way through?
Yeah, we're going Zoom. We're Zoom babies now.
That's it. They're getting my money. I'm going to buy a proper membership. This is it.
They're getting our business.
That's it. Cool, I'm going to wrap it up there. I think we've covered loads of great ground today. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll be able to get on a booking agent or a manager or somebody
Yep,
from the label
we'll have
or
some
something?
people on in the next couple weeks that are going to be just perfect.
Oh, sounds like you've got somebody in mind.
I got a couple things brewing.
Okay, I'm glad you're committing to this and really kind of bringing some people. There
Rob.
you go.
Sorry, Rob.
All right, this has been another episode of Tour Talk. Thank you very much, Nate. I will speak to you soon.
See you guys soon.
See you. Thank you for tuning in to the latest episode of Tour Talk. As always, you can find us across the socials at Tour Talk Pod. That's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Patreon too. Peace!